Do you know where your J spot is? That's coming up on this week's podcast. It's a bit cheap, I know, but finding your J spot or your joy spot is the theme of this week's podcast. There's loads of other stuff as well. The benefits of emotional clearing, removing past blocks, but it's all about the J spot. Hi, I'm Tony. I'm an author, presenter at Sky Sports, and years ago I went to the jungle and got ill. Very ill. So this is my podcast adventure to find more energy. It's packed with biohacking, science, health tech, supplements, and some of the most well-known experts on the planet.
This is something I spent 4 months of my life doing with electrodes glued to my head so that you can do a lifetime worth of meditation.
Decide what you don't give a fuck about, which is something you don't care about.
Some of it gets quite out there.
I had some stem cells sent up to my house that I had stored, and then I injected myself with mannitol.
And we even hack hangovers.
Alcohol is poisonous. So is water and oxygen in the wrong dosage.
So that's my podcast, Zestology. Live life with energy, vitality, and motivation. Welcome back to Zestology. Tony here. And the new Netflix series, How to Change Your Mind, highlights the rising use of psychedelics around the world. And it's something very familiar for two entrepreneurs in Canada who are my guests today. They are bringing this world of psychedelics to high achievers, entrepreneurs, anyone who wants to go and experience it in their fairly luxury setting. And Rob Grover and Gary Logan are on today. But we're not just talking psychedelics, we're talking finding your J spot, your joy spot. Yeah, I know. But, you know, it's bank holiday here today. And so I need to be finding my J spot today with Rob and Gary. The benefits of emotional clearing, removing past blocks, changing your mind. What my 3-year-old said to me today, which was fairly cheeky, to be quite honest, and what happened when I'm sitting in the bedroom at the moment because the toddler, my son, is downstairs being looked after, and I can see a building site across the road, and something happened there today. So you'll hear about that on this podcast as well. Rob and Gary have been featured in Forbes, Bloomberg, and Entrepreneur. They're absolutely brilliant as well. They're having a really important effect on the lives of the professionals and the people that go and visit them in their retreats. And it's just a whole area that I have explored before on Zestology, but not a great deal. And you will hear why I haven't explored it a great deal either. So that is today's podcast. Here are Rob and Gary, Rob Grover and Gary Logan on Zestology. And it starts with me asking them a question about emotions. Let's talk a little bit about emotional clearing. Gary, let me ask you first. I mean, what are the sort of benefits of emotional clearing that you might see when people come and work on that with you?
The physicality. The body is unknowingly, you're holding trauma in the body physically, even if it's just a thought or an energy, it's still held within. And that comes through injury and illness. And if you can learn to release it or assist yourself on recognizing it and letting it go, the body becomes much lighter and freer, and the organism is more connected to yourself, and we'll call to source. You become more of a pillar of strength, and you're not wavering to and fro from in and out of your thought pattern that is not giving you the direction you need to go.
Yeah. I mean, I've spoken on this podcast a few times before about emotional freedom therapy, which I sort of think has done quite a similar thing. It's amazing how emotions are so linked to the physical. But we never really think of it. And even now, I forget all the time.
Definitely. Until your body reminds you.
Yeah. Totally. And the analogy is that it's always like a dog that shakes itself off after a fight or something like that. And actually, I'm sat in my bedroom at the moment because my son is downstairs being looked after. And I've got a view of, I'm going to have to talk a bit quietly here, but my neighbours across the road are doing a loft conversion. And the other day I saw a builder walking around on the roof, and he fell over and he fell down just a sort of like probably 5 meters, and he was stopped by the scaffolding. And he looked around, realized no one was looking at him, and then sort of like very casually sort of strolled off. And then just when he thought no one was looking, just like brushed himself down. And that was a really similar sort of thing, actually, I thought.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That experience can be held, and it's humans, like you mentioned, the dog will innately get up and shake it off. Humans have been trained to hold it in.
Sweep it under the rug.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Whereas that's what, when you actually rest deeply into self, into the quiet of self and be with yourself, that's when you can start to explore and discover those held energies that are locked up within your being. And then you can have physical healing as well.
Yeah. I mean, we think about it all the time with our son, who's 3. And, encouraging him to express his emotions is, obviously toddlers are pretty good at that anyway. But actually, I think what a lot of kids learn is to suppress a lot of the wilder emotions because it makes their parents happy. Oh, they've stopped crying. Thank goodness for that. So we always sort of, try and stop them crying, but also sort of say, it's good to express your emotion. It's good to, and we label the emotions when he feels them as well. So you're feeling sad, you're feeling angry, this is, so then he learns to be able to describe his emotions himself.
Mm-hmm. All right. We just have to share a story. We have a friend. She doesn't mind us sharing the story, and she has 4 children. And the one of the children was not having a great day, and he decided just to show his anger. And so she thought the parenting thing was to ask him, do you want to release your anger? And he went, no, I want to keep my anger in.
Yeah, I know. He's starting to get very gobby now. Just said, do you want to go in the paddling pool? No. Do you want to go in the paddling pool? No. And then I asked him again, do you want to go in the paddling pool? A little bit later, and he said, don't ask me again. So he's learning to express himself well, which is good, bearing in mind my job, I suppose. So I mean, what I could talk about emotional clearing all day, but how did you guys get into running these incredible luxury retreats for people, exploring plant medicine, dealing with emotional clearing, and all the other stuff that you do? How did you end up doing this?
Mm-hmm. Well, we were in a place about 5 or 6 years ago. My mother was living with us. She had lived with us for about 4 years until she transitioned. And after she had passed away, we were sort of in a funk. It was like I was a bit depressed. Well, we both were depressed in our own way. Mm-hmm. And it was like, what direction are we really going in our life? Because we were considering starting retreats at our home, personal development retreats. And I am an Alexander technique teacher. So I was implementing that into our program. And this beautiful little fairy came into our life, and she introduced us to a shaman that she had an experience with. And Robert went first. I didn't need to nudge him. He was just the first one to go. And I said, it's your thing. You go do that. Yeah. And when Robert came back from the journey with this shaman, it's like we jokingly say he found his J spot, which is his joy spot, and he had changed considerably.
That's what I'm going to call the podcast: Finding the J Spot. Perfect. Interrupting this podcast for one moment to tell you about my podcast partner this month, which is the wonderful, the majestic Magnesium Breakthrough. This month focusing on the number one health problem people from all over the world are facing. Do you know what it is? Well, it's actually sleep. Because sleep is like the master hack. It affects everything. And the majority of people are lacking energy throughout the day. And that is often a symptom of a bigger picture, which is not getting enough sleep. Poor sleep can affect your mood, hormones, weight gain, many other factors negatively impacting you. And one of the ways to get over it is by taking Magnesium Breakthrough. The other one is by going to bed earlier and changing your evening routine, the sort of thing that we talk about a lot on Zestology. But Magnesium Breakthrough is something that I take every evening. What I do is about 9 o'clock, I have a little pot around and I get some supplements together. And one of them is, I don't even know how to say it properly, but it's Saccharomyces boulardii. I really like that for my stomach. And the other one is Magnesium Breakthrough that helps me sleep. The other day, I didn't sleep very well. And I woke up in the morning and I loudly complained to my wife that I didn't sleep well. And I came downstairs and the supplements that I put out the night before were still on the kitchen table. So I'd forgotten to take them. And that's probably why I didn't sleep very well. For a limited time, Magnesium Breakthrough have a special offer. They are offering additional bonus gifts for the next 1,000 customers or while supplies last. And so if you order Magnesium Breakthrough by going to magbreakthrough.com/zestology, you'll get 3 bottles of their full line of digestive health products. So you get quite a lot of free stuff. So this is definitely a deal worth doing. You will get, I'll tell you what we'll get. You'll get Masszymes, their digestive enzymes, another product I love. You'll get a patented probiotic, P3OM, and their HCl product as well to alleviate heartburn and acid reflux. I don't get heartburn, but people who do love that product as well. So go to magbreakthrough.com/zestology and get a load of free stuff as well. I know they're quite excited about this offer. The people at Bioptimizers and Magnesium Breakthrough have been messaging me this month saying we're very excited about this. So make sure you get it before you're too late. Excellent deal. And I will speak to you more about this at the end of the podcast. But now, back to the show.
Maybe I need to shift some shit. And I thought, okay, so why not? Let's go. And so it timed it out right that it was the spreading of my mother's ashes, and then my birthday. So it was technically it would have been her birthday and my birthday. And so for my gift to myself, I went to see the shaman, and I came back and told Robert, I've been guided to this direction that we're supposed to lead is do ceremonies for people. And that's how it started.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
And the thing is, before that, it's not like we just started from that day. I had been exploring the science of metaphysics and the metaphysical world and personal development world for about the last 20 years. Gary has been working in the mind, body, conscious awareness space for about 40 plus years. And both of us sensed that there was something else, and there was like a next level of service that we were to offer. And I had my own coaching business and my own healing business. And that's when I asked what the next step is. And we were both guided and shown to start guiding people through journeys. And we have traditional roots that were given to us by our shaman. And then we also have contemporary aspects of the work where we integrate the embodiment piece. And a big part of the work that Gary brings to the table is the Alexander technique and the embodiment of being fully in your body, and not just in the woo, not just in the spiritual, not just in the energetic, but being fully here, fully present, and being a fully functional member of society.
Yeah, and good for you, because I do think that, I've been thinking a lot recently about how I've been doing NLP, neuro-linguistic programming, for 18 years. That's when I first studied it 18 years ago. And I sort of only feel really now I'm getting to the place where I can really offer my best work. And that's a very exciting realization, actually. And I think, a lot of these Johnny-come-latelys who've been doing it for 6 months and think they know what they're talking about, we've put in the hard yards, haven't we?
Yeah, totally. Exactly.
Yeah. So, just thinking about objections, do some people sort of think, oh, it's not as hardcore as going to a forest in Peru coming to you?
There are plenty of ways to take a journey, and it's just whatever calls to you. Definitely, you can go to Peru and get the whole ceremonial and experience and work with the local shaman there. My thing is, like, do I really want to go in the forest and have a tarantula cross my face, in the middle of a ceremony?
Yeah.
Or it just wasn't our calling. And we had the experience of being in a luxury environment, in a safe and contained environment. And that's how we developed our program, the Journeyman Collective, is to move forward in that way of offering to people that don't want to go to the forest or experience in a grass hut. So there's plenty of options out there. It's just whatever's calling to you.
I like a grass hut, but one with heating and a shower and,
Yeah,
and luxury towels.
Definitely, there's luxury grass huts out there. Perfect, definitely.
Yeah, yeah.
Whatever resonates with you, definitely. And so when people work with us, they understand what we're offering and they come for that environment.
Mm-hmm.
Amazing. So I mean, what a wonderful area for you to work in, and I bet you meet some very interesting people, because I think this is an area that I've noticed is one of the sort of talking points that people come to me a lot with, knowing that I do this podcast and I've done it for many years. Oh, what about plant medicine? What about trying this and that? And some of the most surprising people will mention it. Right. Some of the straightest, most vanilla, or at least I think they are. They'll be like, "Oh, I want to go and do a bit of that,"
Yeah, we get a variety of people come in, and even people. There was a lady that we were speaking to, and she's 72 years old, and ready to explore her inner world. She's tired of doing what she was doing for the last 50 years, and realized there's more. So it's quite unique. So. We're open to meeting everyone, but it's not for everyone.
Yeah. And then just talk to me about this concept of past blocks and how you might be able to help people remove them.
So there's a lot. We see into people's world. We don't go looking. It's just we're open to receiving images that come to us. And just a little example is like I would see images of a young boy of the client we're working with, say maybe he's 60 years old, and I would see an 8-year-old boy just very quickly. And then we would just, in the integration part of the journey, we would discuss, what he saw, what he'd experienced. And then and I said, there's this 8-year-old boy hanging around. Is there, what can we bring up about that? And then eventually they would connect in, when I was 8, this is what happened to me. And then that's telling the story, recognizing the story that you've forgotten or you made yourself forget, and that you're going to release it. And we're going to talk about it, let it go. And it's sort of that, once you let it go, your body breathes.
Yeah.
And it gets more grounded and connected, and it's just a freeing up. And you still can have that story. It's up to you whether you want to tell it again or not, or live through it again. I think once you've experienced the journey, you've released it and let it go, you just move on, because that makes space for more stories and more of what you want to do in the world as you move forward.
Yeah. And not suppressing what might be a very important part of your personality.
Correct.
Yeah. And your experience. Yeah. Yeah, it's that's because it's in some ways it's quite hard to explain what happens when you connect with those experiences. It's everything and nothing all at the same time. Oh, I've just told you something that happened when I was 8 years. Great, but actually, everything can change from that moment, can't it?
Very much so. Yeah. And the journey, it's hard to explain to people. What did you see? What did you do? It's like, and you can't put it into words. A lot of people draw. A lot of people do write. Journaling is a big part of our program. It's like we encourage people to write what they've seen so they remember, or even draw it in pictures, or play music and tell us what this music meant to them. So there's different ways of communicating what a journey is about and what they're going through.
I think once those energetic stagnations are identified and cleared, and that's the part that it's not like we're doing something to you. We're guiding you through that process. We're moving energy the entire time you're with us, and it's clearing those energies to make space for the new. You may still talk about them, however, the energetic charge around that story of what happened to you isn't quite there as much. It's dampened or it's gone completely. And then as a result, the whole entire channel, the pillar that you are, allows for the energy to flow more effortlessly, more easily, and people will experience a greater connection with self, freedom, joy, peace, contentment. It's really endless. And I think the big overarching thing is they discover a center point within themselves that they can always come back to.
Right. Yeah. And their J spot.
Yes.
Of course. Where's your J spot?
In my heart.
So, in terms of influences, a question that I ask everybody is, what is one book that you would recommend? What about you? Rob, let's go first. What is one book that you would recommend? And Gary, I'll ask you afterwards.
One of my favorite books that I'm reading right now is Quantum Revelation by Levy. And it does a brilliant job of synthesizing the spiritual and blending it with science and sort of explaining things in layman's terms, but just allowing people to decompose the skeptic a little bit more so that it's like, oh, it's true what they say.
Wow.
So yeah, that's, I think, one of my faves.
Okay, sounds good. I will look it up. What about you?
There's a Netflix series on right now called How to Change Your Mind. And it's a great book by Michael Pollan.
Oh, yeah.
And, so it's very informative. It tells you like it is, and his experience getting into 4 different plant medicines. So a very interesting book. It's a very informative. It's a great read. And even the series is really good. It does explain a lot.
Great. So the series might be an entry level into the book. Would that be right?
Yeah, totally. Very much so.
Great. We just watched the first episode of the new Game of Thrones prequel last night. Yeah, that's also on Netflix. I just had to give up after 20 minutes, but my wife was just so loving it. Yes. Not for me though. I was on my phone after 20 minutes checking the football scores. But,
priority.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Now, what about, you've mentioned energy a few times in this podcast. What is one tip that you would both have for living with more energy and vitality? Gary, I'll ask you first this time. What is one tip for living with more energy and vitality?
More energy. I always come back to it's like thinking with the heart and loving with the mind. It's changing the energetic flow of that, always coming from your thinking mind, which can be very exhausting and very tiring, and you don't even really know why you're tired because your brain is overworked. I think if you can come and sort of think through the heart and see if you can love with your mind thoughts. So that's my flow of energy that I work with.
Okay. Yeah. Excellent. And Rob?
I think one of the best things that you can do on a daily basis is just give yourself time out. And that's sort of an extension of what Gary's speaking to as well, of give yourself the time out to just give the thinking mind a rest so that you can come into this space and you can focus on this space. And when we start to tune into this space and clear this space and learn how to move the energy in this space with intention, that's when we can have more energy, more ideas, greater connection. And just give yourself permission to have a 5-minute time out throughout the day whenever you feel like you're trying to push through things, and it'll add fuel to your day.
It's like not putting the kids in timeout. You're going to say, kids, I'm going to put myself in timeout and I'll be back in 5 minutes.
Yeah, great. I've just been thinking a lot. I've been writing about the concept of screen timeouts as well. And I think the timeout should not involve going on Instagram. No. It needs a bit more headspace than that.
Yeah, totally. That's dead timeout.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. Well, look, thank you so much. It's been really good to chat. Tell people where they can find out more about you and everything you're doing.
You can reach us on our website, www.thejourneymancollective.com. We're also on Instagram, same name, and on Facebook.
But not don't check the Instagram during a timeout.
No. Only when you're productive.
Yeah. Look, thank you so much. It's really been very enjoyable to chat. I really appreciate it. And maybe we'll get to meet in person at some point.
We hope so. This was fun. Thank you.
All
so
right,
much.
take care.
Yeah, you too. Bye.
That is it. Thank you to Rob and Gary for coming on, and do go and check out thejourneymencollective.com. Before we go, if you want to sign up for my newsletter, you can go to TonyWrighton.com. I sent one out a few days ago. I've been thinking a lot about air quality recently, and trying out a few different things. First up, I've been using the Breathe air purifier. Don't know if you've seen this. It's very cool. BRIIV, and it's sort of got moss. It's a natural air purifier. It's got moss and coconut in it, and it's the most sustainable air filter on Earth, and it's rather beautiful as well. And so I wrote a post about what my 3-year-old thinks of our new air purifier, which I quite enjoyed. And then on the subject of air quality, I've been writing about why an open window will help you sleep. I've noticed for a long time that I sleep a lot better when the window is open in the room. And when the window is closed, I do not sleep nearly as well. Even if it's not a temperature thing, it's an airflow thing. Circulating air can stop carbon dioxide building up, leading to a better night's rest. And I wrote about, there's loads of science on this. It's really interesting. And the particular study that I quoted, the authors concluded lower CO2 levels implied better sleep depth, sleep efficiency, and lesser number of awakenings. So as the weather starts to get colder in the Northern Hemisphere, you might be tempted to close the window and sort of keep the warmth in. But actually, airflow is really important. It's not just air. It's not just air temperature, but airflow as well. So really interested to know what you think of that. And as I say, I have been thinking a lot about air quality recently. That is it for this week's podcast. I'm well aware that podcast number 400 is coming up fairly soon, and I'm planning something. So look out for that in 2 podcasts' time. Before that, thank you to Bioptimizers as well, of course. As always, if you want to go to magbreakthrough.com/zestology, you will get a whole load of discounts in there, and you can discover how magnesium helps. The top 7 forms of magnesium for stress and better sleep, all in one bottle. magbreakthrough.com/zestology, and you get in August, as long as it's still running, because we're almost at the end of August now, you get a load of freebies as well. If you buy some Magnesium Breakthrough, you get pretty much all their other digestive products for free. So I think and I hope that is still running until the end of August. magbreakthrough.com/zestology. Use the code zestology10, and if you're in the UK, use the code zestology10 as well. Thanks as always to Mag Breakthrough for being podcast partners, and it is an absolute pleasure to partner up with a company that I use the product myself. In fact, have I had it today? No, I had it yesterday, and I probably will have it tonight before bed. Definitely helps with relaxation, reducing stress, improving sleep quality, falling asleep faster, and sleeping deeper as well. Right then, as I say, look out for episode 400. Do sign up for the newsletter if you'd like to. That's at TonyWrighton.com, and I will see you next time.